Live. Hello. I'm just going to get set up here quick like I do every time because I don't have a bunch of technical people working for me, so I have to do it. And this on here. Okay, perfect. That volume's down. Excellent. Hello, everybody. You guys too, because I know there's actually a bit of a following that does watch these replays after, and I hope you're getting some good value from these live streams as well, because this is why we do it. And hello, everybody who is watching live right now. I appreciate you taking your time to watch us, and hopefully we can provide you some value here as well. Well, I guess y'all know from the thumbnail who we have on tonight. We have a fantastic guest on tonight. It's the Canadian Connection tonight. Got Ontario and we got the East Coast on. So everybody help me give Mr. B a very warm welcome. Hello, Mr. B.
Hi. Thank you very much for having me on.
Good to Well, you're very welcome, and thank you for coming on. Just so everybody knows, we do have a little bit of a delay thing, so we're going to work our best with it, and yeah, we're going to do it. So I guess most of you, if you're part of the Fish Fam thing they got going on for YouTubing and whatnot, you know this gentleman. You may not know his face, but you know his writing, and you know what he does for you in scheduling your live streams. Thank you very much for doing that for us. I know everybody appreciates it. How did you get into doing that stuff for us, Mr. B?
FishTubers Notifications started as a different page, but essentially the same thing, a share page or a share group before, and it just didn't live real long. And some people had asked me if I'd sort of help create that or set it up a little bit. They knew that I was involved in a few other pages and stuff, and so I said sure, no problem. And so I helped set that up, and it had some problems, and it sort of died basically. And then a lot of people sort of wanted it to come back rather quickly, and one of those people was Lacey, and she got a hold of me and says, hey, what can I do to help with this? And I said, well, I'll tell you the truth, I work a lot, I don't have a lot of time, which is still true. But I'll help you set it up and figure it out. And so we did that, set it up, and then next thing you know, it's gone rather well. And all that we really do is we try to share all of the YouTubers, all the fish tubers, and we do it without any discrimination. I watch almost all of you, but I'll be honest, I don't see all of them. But we share them anyway. We share them, and then it's up to you, the viewer, to decide if you like that channel or not. But I think it's a great hobby, and I think it's worth sharing as much of it as we can.
Yeah, and I think it's been working out actually quite well. Sometimes there's an overlap of times, but that can't be helped. I think for the amount of people that are using, I'm going to call it a service you're providing, the amount of people that are using the service you're providing, I think for the amount of people, it's ran rather smoothly. Yeah. And if there is a time overlap, quite frank, I try to avoid it a bit as much as I can. Right. But if there is, oh well, that's again, like you said, the viewer's choice on who they want to watch.
It just means somebody has a choice. Because guess what? Not every flavor is for every person. So it gives them an option if they can go watch something else. No. If you're that person who likes to watch every single fish tuber, well, you know what? Great, because then you're an incredible supporter, and we all thank you for that. But if not, and I can't watch everyone, then at least you have a choice. You can go watch who you want to watch, when you want to watch them, or you can go watch someone else's replay or something, right?
Well, that did. Oh, I'm back. That's it too, right? Like that's why I try to greet my replay viewers at the starts of my stream, because I know a lot of people don't always even just have the time when I think it's a good time to go live. Doesn't mean they're available and maybe they want to watch it. So everybody's always got the replay option. Let's just say hi to everybody here quick, Brandon. We got a few people in. Zen Ginger, like always, thank you. Thank you for coming, and thank you for all you do for a lot of live streamers. Zen Ginger's a fantastic moderator. Cody saying hello. Thank you for coming by. HC Aqua, thank you. Cichlids 23, thanks for coming by. Alice, thank you very much for coming by. I believe you're on the other side of the world too. Sandy, you're back again tonight. You can't get enough of it. Benny's Aquatics, thanks for stopping by. Hey, Benny at Vinosky Tanks. And I think that's everybody. Did I miss anybody? I don't think so. I think we got her. But anyways, yes, thank you everybody for joining us to watch it. It's you guys is why we do this. If I didn't have viewers, we wouldn't do it. So I'm going to give you a formal congratulations that we can hear each other well now. Congratulations on your new family member. I don't know if you want to announce it for everybody. I'll leave that up to you.
Yeah, I have a new grandson. This is my 4th grandchild. That's what happens when you get old. I have 4 grandchildren now, and yeah, I have my. So this is my latest grandson. That makes 3 boys and 1 girl.
You're going to be a very busy papa. Cool. So what do you want to talk about, Brennan? What maybe didn't you talk about with Dee on Sunday that you maybe thought of after and went, hey, I kind of wanted to talk about something. I know there's something.
Well, there's always lots of things to talk about. But I think that it's nice that a few of us Canadians are talking on here. There's an awful lot of fish keepers in the U.S. That's what you see a lot of. And I don't think a lot of people in the U.S. understand that fish keeping in Canada is kind of a different game. It's kind of a different thing. For example, we don't have dollar gallon sales. Doesn't happen here. We do have chain stores, but and we're home to some of the biggest fish names or name brands that you've ever heard of. Some of them are based out of here or originated here in Canada. But however, it doesn't mean that we have any kind of special treatment from that. It doesn't really seem to benefit us a whole lot, Everything here in Canada, as far as fish keeping, all the fish that we keep are from somewhere else. None of our fish that we keep are native fish, which I don't think that everybody sort of realizes. I'm very envious when I see people that are going and getting native fish or invasive fish. If you're in Florida, for example, you can get lots of invasive fish that are in your waterways. But there's no invasive fish here. And there's kind of 2 things that happen because of that. One of them is nice that we're allowed to have almost anything. Some pretty famous fish keepers here in Canada keep Asian arowanas. Something that you're not allowed to do in the U.S. unless if you have a special permit or reason or something like that allows you to have it. We're allowed to have them here, and it's not an issue because they can't become invasive here. Our waterways and our temperature, they wouldn't live. In fact, they wouldn't live long enough to procreate at all.
No tropicals can become invasive here.
There's no tropical fish here. It's and that doesn't matter where you are in Canada. The nicest part of Canada, you're not going to have that type of fish live. Now, one of the few fish that can live here is like goldfish or koi. But in my area, we've never had a problem with that.
There's some pretty big problems down around Hamilton Harbor and places like that where they've really populated, and they've outcompeted a lot of native species for more of the marshlands areas and whatnot. When they go up, oops, you okay? I think your camera fell.
I'm okay.
That was crazy loud. You're good? You're good. Good. I didn't know if you went over backwards or if your camera went over backwards or who went over backwards. But glad you're good. So yeah, the goldfish and the koi cause some pretty big problems here. But other than that, not a lot we do have. But they mostly came from Asia. That's where most of them came from. Gobies, whatnot. Yeah, so actually Chewy's gonna say something like that. I noticed right here, I'll put his comment up. Unfortunately, there are a few invasive species, and one is allowed into Canada. Alberta has a whole lake full of goldfish, right? Yeah, they will take over. Now, one thing, since we're talking about fish keeping in Canada versus fish keeping in the States or many other places, it's more expensive for us to keep fish here. Bottom line, it costs us a lot more money. We got to heat tanks. We got to keep tanks indoors in Canada. I drove through a blizzard today and actually turned around and came home. We had 6 inches of snow on the ground today. This is May 9th, right? So everything costs more. If you want to ship, you have to use heat packs, and you still have to be picky on what time of year you're going to ship fish or shrimp. Right. So yeah, a lot of things, and our shipping is twice as much money as in the States.
Money, and our money is half as much money. I don't know if everybody realizes that with the exchange of things. I mean, our own economy is not a bad economy here in Canada, and our own lifestyles and so on are very, very similar to that of the U.S. Now, I know we probably have some audience from other places than the U.S., but that's the easiest one for us to sort of relate to. A lot of our culture comes from there and so on and whatever. And we're really very much the same. We're very close cousins. We're sharing the same continent. But we couldn't be in a more different atmosphere in another sense, right? I long haul trucked, and I actually was born in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. I've lived in Canada since the 70s. I was just a little kid. And I consider both places kind of home. But you're absolutely right when you say that things are a totally different cost. Everything we have is important. Yep. Everything that we have here was brought here from somewhere else. Nothing is really manufactured here, with the exception of like tanks. We have some tanks and we have some filters and things like that are made here. But here's what is kind of crazy about it. It's not like we can go buy one locally at the factory. It's probably sent somewhere else and shipped back to us.
Yeah, it goes to a distributor in the States and then comes back to Canada.
Yeah.
Essentially.
That's right.
So but yeah, everything costs more.
It does. Big tanks are a rarity here. Like some of the tanks that I have here, these are rarities. If you get something like a 6-foot aquarium and anything over 100 gallons, my local chain store, big store, they carry one. They bring in one for Black Friday sales, like a 125, and that's it.
Right.
So it's not like and if you want to order one, they'll go, oh yeah, well that's great. If you want to order like 5, we'll bring them in, but if not, you're gonna have to wait for the Black Friday sale. So it's not like there's a lot around.
See, and that's an East Coast problem.
Yeah, you can do that from far. You can go get tanks. But
it
tanks come from you. So.
Yeah, we have a tank manufacturer in Ontario too called Miracles. Miracles is literally 2 hours from my house, so I could actually drive there and pick. Actually, I'll flip my my picture here over to my 6-foot Miracles tank so people know what I'm talking about. I figured out how to do this stuff, people. There we go. That's my 6-foot dirty glass Miracles tank right there. And it's probably 10 years old now, that tank. But That's my predator prey tank. It's being on the half a screen. I never did. Oh, there he comes. My big Frontosa is coming into the screen now. So he kind of runs that tank. But that's what we're talking about.
That's a nice tank.
Thank you. Yeah, I've worked on that tank for a long time. It's had many different looks to it. And this time I thought, you know what? I got all these cichlids all over the place and everything. Hell with it. The strong will survive. And I just jumped all kinds of fry in there, everything. A few have been snacked on a bit, but for the most part, they get along. There's actually like a half inch long baby Venustus in there that was actually born in that tank and survived. So they all have a chance if you give them enough rock work.
Yeah.
But
and you can get away with things in a bigger tank that you don't get away with in a smaller tank. People who keep Africans are very familiar with having a big tank with lots of fish. If you're keeping a lot of other fish, I don't really keep Africans. I have a little bit, but they've turned out to not be my thing. I like more Central or South American cichlids. That's mostly what I keep. I do keep some other fish. We keep some live bears, not a lot. I've recently got into shrimp. I'm really enjoying that. But it's once again, I have to kind of pick what I'm going to have for fish, and it's always a question of what's available to me. Not only is Canada different for fish, but the East Coast, as you pointed out earlier, is another entirely different thing. To get people to sort of understand that is we're very rural where I'm at. We're very, very rural. There's the biggest city close to me is Moncton. I'm not sure what the population of that is, to be honest with you, but there's as many people in all of New Brunswick as there would be in the bigger cities where you live. You know, like our whole province. A province similar to a state for those of you in the States. You know, your states were, that's why you're called the United States, is because they were all little tiny small countries or states that grouped together became a long country, United States of America. Here in Canada, we have provinces, very similar. Our provinces are generally bigger, but our country is actually a little bigger than the U.S. is, to give you a perspective of that. But the population is nowhere near the same. So there isn't as many people in New Brunswick as there would be in, like, Mississauga in Ontario, for example.
Yeah, I think Ontario, I don't know. I think we're about half the population of Canada, Ontario. Yeah, I think we're about 15 million people in Ontario. The biggest city to me, I live in a city. It's classified as a city, but it's only about 40,000 people, Aurelia. But I'm only an hour and a half from Toronto, and I don't know how many people live there. Like most of Canada lives there. So between Toronto, Mississauga, Oshawa, Oakville, that whole GTA they call it. It's pretty big, and yeah, things are a lot easier for us to get here. But even me, I still have to usually do that hour and a half drive to the GTA if there's really something I want, because I probably will not find it north of there.
Right. Now, is it chain stores or privately owned? Now, what I mean is like the mom and pop stores. Do you have any of those? We
have both. Around like we have PetSmarts, Big Owls. I don't know if you've heard of Big Owls. They're a very big chain. There's a Big Owls 25 minutes from me. Then as you go south, I don't know. There's a couple people. I see Fish Tropics on here. Hey man, how's it going? Thanks for stopping by. But like Fish Tropic lives in the city. And between me and Jason from Fish Tropic, I bet you there's 5 Big Owls.
Wow.
Like I know there's one in Barrie, one in Newmarket, one in North York, one out Scarborough way, one heading towards Brampton. Then there's one in Hamilton. I don't know if there's one in London or not, but then all the PetSmarts in every one of those cities, and then as well as the mom and pop, which are but there's a long pop. Sorry, I seen I cut out there. And then we have really cool stores like Fanatics. I don't know if you've heard of Fanatics Aquarium before. Yeah, it's in Mississauga. It's like the cichlid superstore in the world. Like that's Mike is the name of the owner. He's done a fantastic job at the store. It was in Scarborough. He moved it out that way. The store, it's the cleanest one of it. But yeah, we have options, a lot more options than you do.
Right.
That is for sure.
Yeah, well, a lot of people are familiar with One Fish, Two Fish in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. That's a province away from me. So, for example, that is like a 3-4 hour drive for me to go there. That's the closest privately owned fish store available to me, and otherwise there's a PetSmart. And then I've got to go, you know, the other direction. Like other than my close in Moncton, the PetSmart that's there, which is a 45-minute drive for me. Then the next thing, like I say, is 3 hours away. And after that, it's a day away, you know? So that's it.
Yeah, and I guess, I don't know, I guess you guys as hobbyists in your area must get together and swap a few, like I would say, does that bring, I guess I'm asking, does that bring you guys closer together as hobbyists there, or is there still not even many hobbyists around you?
Okay, so, you know, and to be clear, just to finish my thoughts there, like I can then go to St. John or Fredericton and they have a PetSmart as well. So it's no different than what I have in my city. That's a couple hours. So to answer your question about the, you know, fish clubs or things like that, when I was younger, we had a fish club in my area and we had mom and pop stores. And the problem is we didn't support them very well at all. As a result, they didn't live. They didn't live through the big chain stores coming in. And, you know, it's been a struggle for aquarium clubs to survive since then. I've tried very hard to get the fish clubs to thrive in my area. And, you know, I kept trying to get people involved with it. I sort of was a defuncto president of the club for a while. And would go and give talks. We would try to get people to come and give educational talks or information for us. And our chain store supported that. So they have a training room for puppy training. So you go and you buy your new puppy, and they provide that service because they want you to come back and buy a new collar for the dog, you know, and buy a leash and buy a kennel.
That's PetSmart you're talking about, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, so they have a dog training room where they have somebody come in and you bring your puppy and you go there and they give you a little discount on a bag of food and whatever the case is, right? And when that wasn't being used, they would allow me to have my local club hosted there. We would do that on a monthly basis for a little while. Now, here's a bit of the problem is fish keeping is almost a wintertime hobby. I don't know what it's like for everybody else, but it's kind of a winter thing. You know, you're in the house, you're playing with that. The summertime, you go out and you go camping, you go hiking, you do something else, right? The fish tank sort of sits there and almost maintains itself. So in the wintertime, it was nice for us to have a place to do that. We would go to the PetSmart and have a few meetings. And in the summertime, it basically falls apart on us. We try to have a few swap meets, but really, I ended up giving the same talk over and over again. And really, it was the same dozen people that kept going. Our local club, theoretically, we have like 400 people. But it's those 20 people that are active, you know?
Yep. So with our club, we don't do summers either. We actually use a school. So yeah, I guess that took that out of the equation for us, that we weren't expected to meet in the summer because we just didn't have a meeting to go to. So it went from June until September until June is what our meetings would go to. But it's still hard to even with the population we have. I'm talking our Barrie Club. So Barrie's got a population of, I don't know, 150,000 people or so. But then every town around, I'd say we're drawing from probably 200,000 people. And even that, we have 20-person meetings, right? So it's really no different. You get in
bad then if I get you know, a dozen or more.
Yeah, right. So the king lives out by you, and he doesn't help out with the meetings or anything. He doesn't. They haven't worked with him to set anything up.
Well, he no. To be the
Okay.
short, simple answer is no. He hasn't come out and given a talk or anything like that. But to be perfectly fair, we've talked about it a little bit. And, you know, when you've got a dozen people, why is he going to come and do that? I kind of don't blame him. And the other side of it is that's how he makes his living. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to defend him one way or another, but I'm just pointing out my point of view about that. This is something he does to make a living. He's the most well-known person about it and happens to be like 5 hours away from me. And he and I have run into each other at the same events or things like that. But it's still, once again, a very rural area, and he's a professional, and that's what he does to make a living at it, you know? Whether his actions are always professional or not, that's still what he's doing.
Yeah, we're not here to debate that. What he does, he does. I really don't care. I don't have anything poor to say about him. I don't have anything to blow his head up either.
Yeah, exactly. You know, but
the only thing I will say is, I really wish you get back to the old stuff he used to do. That's actually when I really watched him, was when he actually did DIY stuff, and he did some really cool stuff that really helped a lot of people out. Now it's more of a look at my new stuff I just bought. That's great. He's still got, obviously, tons of people still love him. Who am I to judge? He's doing great. I barely have a subscriber count compared to him, so I'm not jealous. I'm not nothing else. I just I don't. It's not my taste. His newer videos, I still watch his older ones because they're my taste.
I hear that a lot, and I think that he still probably gets an awful lot of views from people who pick up their phone or their iPad or whatever, and they type in, you know, how do I do this?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, his videos are going to come up.
Yeah.
And it's not that he invented most of those things; it's that he made very good videos about how to. I mean, that's why his name is King of DIY. Do it yourself.
Yeah.
But if you point something out, it's almost like he needs a name change in a way. You know, he should just kind of be Joey now. You know.
Yeah.
And it's not that he doesn't still do stuff. I know for a fact he still builds stands. He still builds some tanks. He still builds filtration systems. He at one time used to go out and build them for other people too. There are some people in my community, in my club, that have tanks that he has built that you've seen him build, stands that you've seen him build, and then he moves on, does another one, right? But how many times do you build that same stand? Because face it, if you've ever seen him build a stand, he builds exactly the same stand. So how many times do you film that? You know?
Yeah. No, he's done very well. He's done very well. He's gotten our country out there as people like actually keep fish in Canada. So, but enough about him. He gets enough attention. Sorry, we got a couple more people to say hello to and some questions that we need. We're so far behind. Anyways, Angie, Mrs. B, hello, welcome.
Hi.
Anthony's Fishy Friends, welcome. Nathan Fishboy, welcome. V-Stag, welcome, my fellow Flyers fan. I already said hi to Fish Tropic, Sandy, GBR. Just make sure we got everybody here, and I'll go back. Fishroom Fever, hello, welcome. Detroit Shrimp and Aquatics, welcome. This was a previous guest of mine, Brandon. We had a fantastic show together as well. Sharpies Models and Aquatics, welcome. And I think that's it for the saying hello to everybody. So yeah, we're gonna get to some questions here. I think we should anyways, because we're so far behind. So if you have any questions, throw it up here, and we'll do our best to get to it. So I'm just trying to get up to where we had some. Thank you for sharing that out, Zen Ginger. That's where I'm at. That's how far back I am here. You got some congratulations on your grandbaby. Oh, and
Thank you.
Oh, you got the 1K subscribers too, did you?
I did. Yep. Now that's funny because so everybody watch out. The rules are going to change on YouTube momentarily. So this is the third time that I've met the requirements, and this will probably mean that the rules are going to change anytime. Right?
Yeah, probably. I did the same thing when I first started trying to do live streams, and I got like 2 in with my device, my mobile device, and then they changed the freaking rule to that you had to have 1,000 subscribers, you had to be monetized to go mobile.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people do outdoor ponds in Canada, but there's also a lot more temperate areas of Canada than where I live. If you live in southern British Columbia, you probably have a lot longer summer tubbing time than I do in central Ontario. If I was in southern Ontario, like Niagara Falls or something like that, Windsor, I could probably get away with an extra. I'd probably get an extra 2 weeks to a month at a summer tubbing compared to where I am. So for me, even if I put a heater in it, I'm looking at the end of May until the start of September, middle of September, and I got to shut it down. And to me, that's hardly worth doing it. Why I'm not doing one this year.
Well, something I experienced in summer tubbing before is my water got too hot. So that's something you got to watch too. Is because I realized that there's a lot of ignorance, as Fisher and Fever is pointing out. Okay, that in what Canada really is or what it's like. They figure we all live in igloos. We've all got a sled dog team, or at least a nice skidoo, and that we're under snow most of the time. So to really where I'm at, the weather is very much New England-like. So anybody who's ever been to Mass, Pennsylvania, Maine, anything like that, that's what the weather's like where I'm at. So yes, absolutely, I get all kinds of snow, but it also gets really hot. It gets stinking hot. It gets hot and it gets humid. We have air conditioners and heaters. Now the strange thing is like my son was out helping clean up the yard the other day, and I was commenting that, geez, you're going to make sure the lawnmower's working good because you're going to have to cut the grass this week. And right now it's snowing.
Yeah, so my grass is getting real close to being cut, and we had a blizzard today.
Exactly my point. And I happen to plow snow for a living in the wintertime. That's part of what I do. Most Canadians are very diverse in that we do lots of different jobs. We wear lots of different hats. It's almost a Canadian thing. We don't all say A quite as much as you think we do. In fact, we think it's kind of funny too.
Yeah, I say it a lot.
Yeah. And yeah, we have milk in a bag. In case if none of you have ever experienced that one before, we have milk that comes in a bag.
I think that's a shit idea. I do. I don't like it. I prefer like the I don't know what the heck they call it now, but the Becker's jugs, like the 4-liter jugs. I like the jugs.
Right.
I don't like the bags. I wish we never come up with that crap.
I don't know what the real thinking was. I have no idea what the origins are, so I can't speak of that. But I know that if I have family come from the States and they see that and they go, "What in the world is that?" Why are you keeping milk in a bag? So there's some very Canadian things, I guess, but for the most part, it's really not a whole lot different. But,
no.
Yeah, as far as summer tubbing, it's not like you can do it and leave it out. So very much like a New England thing for where I'm at. But you do have quite a season, but it's also really hot. You got to watch that the sun's not right on it. It's the same problem.
Yeah.
We just need to be prepared to bring them in.
A lot of people do ponds. A lot of people do ponds around here anyways. Like I had a customer today buy a bunch of duckweed and water lettuce off me and stuff like that because in another couple of weeks they're going to open their pond up. And so they have a pond with goldfish in it and koi, that cold water fish that can take it most of the year. Some people, if you're in southern Ontario, people will just put a real kick-ass bubbler in so it doesn't freeze over. Yeah. That's right. Around here, most people bring them indoors for the winter, their fish, because they're too hard to keep a pond open here. We get too many minus 20 to minus 40 days around here.
Celsius,
yeah, so At -40, it's the same. Fahrenheit
Yeah.
and Celsius is the same at -40. -40 is -40. It's just damn cold.
They should call it that, damn cold.
Yeah, it's just damn cold.
Yeah.
There's also a Total Aquatics near you that is owned by a former Canadian Association of Aquariums Club speaker, Doug White, who was the judge for the IFGA KWAC. Yes, there is. There's a few. We have. There's we have a lot of. Really, when I listen to you and I listen to how far you got to travel for a fish store, like I might have to travel an hour and a half to get to a decent one, but within that decent fish store, there's 10 more decent fish stores, like within a half-hour drive, right? So, yeah.
No, when I was a kid, we had 2 mom and pop stores in my area, and that's actually some of my earliest memories. Was I lived closer to the city than I do now, and but I used to get on my bicycle, and now this is back when parenting was pretty free range parenting, right?
Yes.
And, so as early as like 8 years old, I get on my bike, no helmet, and I would bike for about an hour. Cycling, as a kid, to go to the fish store. Now I had to change towns. I had to cross a bridge. Now when I say a bridge, I mean this was like we had a river that goes between the 2 cities where I'm from, and I used to have to bike across that bridge in traffic, and I would go to the local fish store there, and I first got a fish from the same place that an awful lot of people do. My very first fish was in a bowl, and it came from the fair, the county fair.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was my first goldfish. I brought that home, and I managed to keep that alive for a couple of months. Now when I think back about it, that was rather amazing.
Yeah, that poor fish.
I eventually killed the poor bugger. Good for the fish, right? But that's what made me start going to the pet store. Was I wasn't allowed to have a dog. I wasn't allowed to have a cat. I could have it in a cage or in a tank or something in my room. And so that was fine and dandy. So I went there and I discovered a beta or however you'd like to pronounce it. And I proceeded to annoy the crap out of the local fish store owner, who had this very small, under the stairs. Now I say under the stairs, he had one of those little alleyway type businesses that the whole store was about 15 feet wide, but it went back for like 70 or 80 feet, right? So it was almost like an alleyway type thing. But and it was in a very old building.
Probably smelled nice and musty.
Exactly. Yeah. You've been there. And I proceeded to irritate him about what kind of fish could I keep. And I knew nothing about fish, but I wanted to keep a fish. And so he sold me this beta in a bag that he took out of a tank. Now the way that he kept his tanks was there were probably 20-gallon aquariums if I think back to it, and they were all around the room, and they were all community tanks, every one of them. They all had various fish in them. They all had various plants in them. And you'd go around, and I picked out the one I wanted. He scooped it out. He told me to take it home. And I had a little corner filter in that first tank. I went from the bowl to a small tank, 10-gallon tank, and it had a little air pump. And we used to keep carbon in the bottom of it and filter floss on the top of it, and that filtered it, right? And I liked that fish so much, and it was doing so well, I decided I wanted another one. Why not, right? So I went back to get another one. I said, I want another one. I said, I got a blue one, so now I want a red one. He said, no, you can't do that. I said, well, why not? Why can't I do that? And he says, well, because they don't get along. They'll fight. They were called Siamese fighting fish, right? And so then what can I have? And from there it grew. And he sort of started teaching me about fish a little bit. And I'm not sure if he started teaching me because I had an interest or because I was that kid that wouldn't stop bugging him until he told me what I wanted to know. And from there, we kind of even grew a little bit of a friendship. And years later, I worked at the store, and there was another family-owned store in the area, and I was very good friends with them. And kept all kinds of different fish. And the biggest tank that I ever remember seeing up until I was about 20 was a 55 gallon. That was the display tank at the big store. You know, it was a 55.
My biggest tank when I was a kid was a 100-gallon homemade cube, and it blew up all over my parents' floor like 2 weeks after I set it up. All brand new.
I bet they liked.
Oh yeah, they were really impressed. All brand new birch hardwood floors in a brand new house. Yeah, we had to basically replace like everything. They were really mad actually. And now that I think back on it, they were pretty good sports about it for like how much stuff I messed up doing that. I should have put that one in the basement. But so yeah, that was my biggest tank. And if you can see behind me, I don't know which way, all these magazines I got behind me there, that's how I found out about new fish when I was a kid. And that's why I keep those magazines to this day. They're nostalgic to me. But I grew up in Wasaga Beach. Everybody's heard of Wasaga Beach, across Canada, I would assume. So yeah, world's largest beach is what it's quoted as. But I had to bicycle to Collingwood, the next town over, and they had a store in there called Fish and Chirps. And that's where I could get fish. And then we had this local little newspaper advertisement. It was called the Super Shopper, or the Simcoe Shopper before that, actually, for the Simcoe County. And I found a guy selling African cichlids down the road. So I bicycled my ass down to his house, and same as kind of what you were saying with the fish shop, I just hung out in his basement till he'd give me shit to leave, right? Like, basically, right? I didn't have any money or nothing, but I did start.
I wonder how many aquarium hobbyists are in the hobby because they wouldn't quit bugging somebody else, right? You know, but I mean,
yeah,
I know I like that too. When somebody will come and they want to pick your brain, they want to ask things, right? And if you can see that, then you're willing to, because at one time it was almost like there was a secret society or something. Like, they were trying to sell fish and trying to sell products, but they didn't really want to tell you. Nobody knew about nitrogen cycles, or if they did, they didn't tell you. You know?
I don't think they knew. I don't think they knew what it was called. I don't think they knew what it was called to be able to explain it. I think they knew how to work with it and make it work, but I don't think a lot of people had.
Right.
Yeah, they knew how it worked. They knew what's working for them, but they didn't know how to explain it to you on how to cycle a tank or whatever. They just knew if you do this, this, and this will happen, and that's good. If you don't do this is going to happen, and that's bad. That's I'm dumbing it down way more than I should be, but that's it.
Right. Now, see, I was keeping fish for years and years before I even knew what it was called. But I knew how to do it. And that's the thing, is like you never started a new tank with everything new. It was kind of like when somebody gets married, you know, you need something old and something new, something blue, you know, whatever that story is. It was almost like that, because when you set up a new tank, you said, okay, well, I'm going to take half of that gravel, you know, or I'm going to move the filter. I'm going to leave the tank and everything there and put the new filter on the old tank. And you knew that those things worked, but you didn't.
Or this guy hands you this scummy, gross, freaking sponge out of his filter and says, "Go put this in your filter." And you're thinking, "What is wrong with you, man?" It'll work, right?
You wanted to clean everything, and I was guilty of that at first. And we tend to be judgy of people that, you know, oh well, there's algae on your glass. You know, now there's algae, there's water spots, there's stuff growing. There's you know, even once in a while I'll be poking around in the tank going, what is that exactly, you know? And that's when you know you've got a good, healthy tank.
Yeah, things got judgy when this started. Things got judgy when all this video, YouTube started, Facebook sites where people would, too much information. That's when things got judgy. When we got too much information, and the information was not always the best information. It wasn't always correct information. I'm very careful when I say statements like that, correct information versus incorrect information, because I'm not here to tell somebody that something that worked for them is incorrect, but it may not work for somebody else. So for that somebody else, it may be incorrect. That's the other thing about this hobby. Not everything is set in stone. There is gray areas. There are some very big gray areas, because I can have 2 tanks perfectly alike, side by each. I did that for you, East Coasters, side by each. Same water, not bad, eh? Same water parameters, everything the same filter, same livestock, everything. One tank, they're never the same. The tanks will never be the same. One might get some shit algae in it. One might be perfect. One might crash. One might not. Like, there is gray areas in this. But that being said,
I always said it was, if you thought you knew what you were doing, then Mother Nature was going to let you know that you don't have it figured out.
Right? But there is some bad advice going around everywhere. There is a lot of bad advice going around everywhere, and I'm not an advice cop. I don't claim to be nothing. But I guess what I try to do is, I try to bring guests on that give good advice, which I have done so far. And I try to just give good advice myself. If I don't know it, I will flat out say, I don't know. I don't have experience with that, or I don't know the right way to explain that.
Don't ever be afraid to say you don't know. Don't ever be afraid to do that. There's a lot of people that are regurgitating what they have heard before.
Right. That's someone doing this, going, hi, yeah, so Brandon, this is what you're going to do with your tank, and this will make, no, you don't know. You're reading what somebody else wrote, that somebody else read, that somebody else wrote, and down the road, and that first person might not have known what the hell they were talking about. So I try to do firsthand information.
Yes. Not only is it that the first person didn't know what they were talking about, sometimes, here's what I have a theory. Sometimes the first person knew exactly what they were talking about, but they were trying to sell you something. So where do you get a lot of information? You get it from the pet store who gave you a pamphlet on a filter that they're trying to sell you. You need to buy this. You need to have that amount, or this does that size of tank. This will handle this amount of load or whatever. Like look at me. I'm even using terms that they use that make no sense. Oh.
And I'm imagining a lot of people that buy fish would pretty much believe anything that's told to them. Now, I say this wholeheartedly because I sell fish, and I've been selling a lot of fish this week. I started a delivery thing around the GTA, and it's just like taking off like crazy. Everybody's taking me up. I'm freaking delivering everybody's fish and mine. And but anyways, so some of the I did a Kijiji ad to advertise to get it out there more, and some of the questions I get are like this, as follows. I remembered it was so bad. I'll remember it word for word. I was advertising green dragon ancestress. I even write bristlenose pleco, so people know it's a bristlenose pleco. In the ad, I do a little bit of a write up on it. Not much info, a little bit, and a price, and blah blah blah. I get people messaging me saying, "Hi, are these bottom feeders?"
Right.
Okay. I'm sorry, and I'm not trying to be judgy, but if I'm going to look at a fish, say I'm at an auction and I see some cool ass fish that I haven't seen before, and I'm like, ooh, I think I got a bid on it. Guess what? I'm researching the shit out of that before I make a bid on that fish, because I want to know if I can.
Well, that's where the bad device. But just use it.
So I can't imagine ever messaging somebody about a fish, not even knowing anything about it at all. That's where people need to, like you just said, on their own onus, do a little research on their own, and then go from there. Go to the real questions. Get to the real questions. Ask me the real questions. Don't ask me if its mouth is on the bottom side of its body. That you should know that already. Just saying. Yeah.
Is it a bottom feeder? Well, it's not a lobster.
Yeah, right. It's got fins. Like, is that where we're starting? Oh, yeah. I'm so far behind on the chat. I'm still at polar bears. So Fisher fever, no, we don't. And I see that Sharpie down here. Gotcha. I have a cottage about 3.5 hours north of me here, and I'm in it, and we're right in the Canadian Shield, the Canadian wilderness there, and we do have a moose that hangs out at our cottage. We call him Bruce the Moose, and he's a pretty big boy. He likes to block the road once in a while. So yeah, no, we're into moose. We have polar bears way up north, but a lot of Canadians can experience moose because they come fairly south. So and I have moose hunted many times in my life.
I've had people ask me that before, like, do you have moose? And it's like, well, yes, we have moose. Because if you've ever seen a moose, you realize that they go wherever they want to.
Yeah, you're not telling them where to go. It's a 1,500-pound animal. It's we have them sparingly around here. Back in the winter, actually, I think it was fall. Sorry, there was reports of a moose on the loose through Arowana. It had everybody upset. But the only time they're kind of dangerous is if you're moose hunting and you shoot the calf, the mother doesn't want to leave too quickly and she's a little pissed off about the whole ordeal. And or if you get between a mother and a calf, or if you got a bull and rut, don't wear any horns on your head, would be my suggestion.
Yeah, don't get in an argument with a bull moose. That's the equivalent of a dozer coming through the woods. Now the funny thing is they go through the woods like a bulldozer, or they can come through like a church mouse and you'll have no idea that they're there.
Yeah. Ghosts of the bush. They're yep. Sometimes you can't even hear them.
That's right.
And Sharpie's bragging a little bit here about it being 80 Fahrenheit there today, and standard English springtime. 45 tomorrow. 45 would be a beautiful day here at this point. Today, I guess in Fahrenheit, we were looking at about 25, 27. Vancouver Island and Vancouver primarily warmer, and it also depicts species that are on our banned list. But look at the Asian Arowana; they could live here, but a license or permit. Yeah, maybe. I don't know if I'm going to take your word for it because I don't know. I don't know if Arowana could handle it. They seem to be kind of not temperamental in tanks, but you got to kind of know what you're doing with Arowanas a little bit. They like nice water.
They like good water. They're a very expensive fish. For starters, you kind of want to know what you're doing, because if you can afford to pay up for one and you even know about one, chances are you've been in the hobby long enough. I don't think that a pet store that carries them is going to sell them to you really, unless if you sort of know what's going on.
Okay, so that's East Coast. I'm going to tell you, Ontario, I can go down to Markham Aquariums for you, and I can buy 100 Arowanas tomorrow.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I couldn't. I can't afford to buy 100 Arowanas.
Right.
But they have Arowanas from $60. They sell little baby ones for $60, right? $60 up to about $9,000.
Well, once again, that's where East Coast here is so small. The chances are, if I was going in to ask about one, he probably knows me by name anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, they're fairly common here. But still, yeah. It's a select group of people that are into the Arowanas. It's never been my cup of tea. Never been my cup of tea. I don't have a tank big enough for one.
No, it's nothing that I really care to keep. I don't want to keep a fish with that potential in that small a tank. Like, I don't have a pond, and I don't think that that's right. But there's a lot of fish I don't have either, because I just don't have the right size tank for it. Now, I do keep some big boy fish, but there's a limit, mm-hmm. And sometimes it's not the size of it. It's kind of actually a bad thing. Not the size of the fish in the fight, but the fight in the fish. Now, what I mean by that is some fish are big, but they're docile. They don't do anything. They just sort of sit there, So you can have a pretty big fish that's not doing much. You get something like an Arowana, that's a swimmer. That wants to move. It's
round in circles.
Right. Yeah.
So what is your biggest fish you got there? I know you got some monsters.
We've got some pretty big fish. Probably the Vija zonatas is some of my biggest fish. There's a jaguar cichlid here. He's a pretty big boy.
Yeah.
There's awesome fish here. There's a pretty big catfish here, shovel-nosed catfish.
Cool. I think I've seen that on D's stream, yeah.
Right, that probably has the potential to be the largest fish that's here. And I have that with an out plan. I have a friend in town who has a much bigger aquarium. It's not big enough for his yet because he's got some bass.
Okay.
But once it gets big enough, it can go in that large aquarium with his bass.
Oh, so, very good.
You know, it's having a plan kind of thing.
Are we talking like
rainbows? We've got some silver dollars, giant danios, guppies, platies, mollies. You know, there's convicts, of course. Everybody's got convicts. You know, there's a Tetra tank behind me.
Got a little bit of everything.
Yeah, some barbs, things like that. A lot of it's very common stuff, but you know what? I kind of went down that exotic road for a little while. We had some Chana, and we had some flower horns, and we had some more exotic stuff. And they're fun, and they're neat, and they're interesting, but I kind of got back to what got me in the hobby and had the interest to begin with, you know? I'm keeping less fish than I used to. I even have less tanks than I used to, but I kind of look at it as I have more tanks than I did when I was younger. I have the tanks I wish I could have, but I keep fewer fish because I want to keep them healthy. I have no problem with having a 100-gallon aquarium with 3 fish in it or something. You know, that doesn't bother me at all because those fish are healthy and happy and they're not crowded and they're doing well.
Well, I think it boils down to every fish keeper hobbyist that has MTS. At some point, you got to learn where your line is, learn where your limit is, learn what you are personally capable of looking after and giving a good life to. And I try not to judge people on that either, because sometimes it takes a little bit for someone to learn where their limit is. I've learned where my limit, and I'm personally at my limit right now. I've had a lot of time on my hands, so my tanks look like great right now because I've had, but I know in a normal summer with my work, I don't have that kind of time to donate to my fish tank. So I make sure I don't have a lot of stock throughout the summer, so things are a little bit easier to maintain. I get asked all the time.
Too, right? You know, I mean, you've got a little bit of a business going. You're trying to make some money doing it. I'm purely a hobbyist, and for me as a hobbyist, what I had to decide was, as soon as it wasn't fun, I mean, it's a hobby, it's supposed to be fun. As soon as it's not fun, as soon as it's work, back up. Yeah. You know, I mean, learn to enjoy it. That's why you did it to begin with, was to enjoy it as a hobby, right? So you're probably on a little different spot than I am because you're trying to keep fish, you know, that you're moving along. You know, you're growing fish or importing fish or exporting fish. Like it's a different sort of game that you're in. You know? No, I actually totally disagree with you. Okay.
And I'll give you my reasons. My reasons is that I'm a hobbyist first, and what I sell is just a byproduct of my hobby.
Okay.
I do import some supplies and stuff. That's business, but they're not alive. They're not alive. Everything that's alive in my room, and I'm including plants in this too. It's all a sub-product of my hobby. I'll give you an example. I have a 55-gallon tank over here that's got a bunch of red rainbows in it, a pair of Odessa barbs, and a bunch of tiger barbs in it. There's no money in that tank. The money in that tank actually is the bristlenose pleco colony that I have in there as well, and what they produce. But I breed those Odessa barbs. I started doing that this year. I have freaking four growth stages of them going right now from one pair. Nice. And there's no money in Odessa barbs whatsoever. I'm losing money. Even if I did sell them, I'm losing money on Odessa barbs for the amount I'm doing. It's not mass production, right? It's just a few tanks. Yeah, and when I have too many Odessa barbs, more than I want, and they're of size where they're of interest to people, I will sell them and try and recoup some of my money from running my fish room. It's excuse me. It's the same as a lot of my fish here. Like that tank I just showed everybody a few minutes ago, that 6-foot tank, it doesn't make me any money. That's just my tank for looking at. I have a rack of tanks. Yeah, I have a rack of tanks behind me. They're all beautiful shrimp and fish. But guess what? I got every one of them because I liked them. I didn't get them because I looked at them and went, okay, I can make this much off of this one and this. I got them because I liked them. And because I liked them, I got them to breed because I put that time into them because I do like them. I put the care, the nurturing they need, give them what they need to do their thing. And then I sell their offspring. So I guess it works out really well doing it this way.
So it's just basically your business is to support your hobby.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Nice. Pretty much. That's what I'm trying to do. I do get a lot of support. I do have quite a few customers in Ontario that regularly buy stuff off of me, and helps them out. They get some stuff they generally can't get around here, and it helps me out by my wife kicking me out for having too many fish. So it works.
Excuse for, well, I've got to get this because this is going to make some money, right?
Yeah, she don't buy that no more. She was born during the day, but not yesterday. She knows what the gig is.
It's like a lot of fish keepers. Their greatest fear is that if they die, their wife or their husband, whoever, will sell all of their fish tanks and stuff for what they told them they had into it, right?
Yeah, pretty honest these days. You got to get more honest the older you get, or else, you're going to lose a lot of money after. Just looking at.
For myself, I like to build things. I like to tinker with things, and so that's why there's very few tanks here that are tanks that I made myself, or rebuilt myself, or had a whole bunch of tanks until I had enough parts to make a tank, or something like that, or it's reclaimed glass. Definitely all the tops are, most of the trims are. Everything in them is there's to me that was a lot of the hobby too, is it's not just the fish, it's the fish keeping and the stuff that goes with it. We welded and built all the stands here out in my shop. My son has gotten in to help me build some of the stands. In fact, he built this whole stand for me to keep my betas on and stuff, and he's done a lot of the welding on most of these stands.
Good.
It's a 50-50 thing. So that's an extended part of the hobby, was that he and I could go work in the shop and do stuff together too, right? Yeah. No, it's good to be able to do it with other people. And this is one reason why I started doing this more too in these times, is because we don't have our fish club meetings and whatnot. And this is a way for me to continue interacting with other. There's a bit of I guess it makes me a little bit selfish, but it is a way for me to continue interacting with other fish keepers, and so we can still bounce ideas. Not one fish keeper knows everything, man. And like you're into welding. I can weld, but I wouldn't put a tank on it. Like I'm an amateur welder, but I'll build you the nicest wooden stand money could buy. I'm a finish carpenter by trade, so. We all have our things, right? I put a little bit of that into my stuff, and even running my air loop systems and stuff like that. You got to, if you want to do this as a hobby and you have a MTS, you have to wear a couple different hats to be able to do it economically enough. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. You have to, like you say, wear a lot of different hats. And no matter how many videos you've seen or how many other people have done the same thing, once again, back to the Canadian thing, like I couldn't run the closed air loop that everybody else ran. So you guys can see over top of my head now, so you get the hands all backwards here. Like that's part of the air loop that's going around in mine. And it's, instead of being made out of PVC, it's actually waterline, plastic waterline or whatever. And it's the same idea, but it's a different product.
Still so PVC.
Right, exactly. So it's still just you find different ways of doing things that you've seen somebody else do it, or what you used might have been a different product. And that's what's fun about this hobby, is that, being innovative, there's, like you said earlier, there's no right way to do it, and there's more than two ways to do everything, So who's right or who's wrong? If it's working, it's right, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes there's not a right way and a wrong way. Sometimes there's a better way.
Right.
And sometimes there's a worse way. But it's also, like you said, like, especially you being in a rural area, do you have a Home Depot near you?
I do have a Home Depot in the city, and there's a few other
But
hardware
that's
stores there.
45 minutes away,
Exactly, it's 45 minutes away.
right? I got a
It's
Home
a
Depot
rural enough.
5 minutes away.
Yeah, see, so it's a different thing.
Materials
It's
are
you
easier.
get to plan something, and you often make do with what you have.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, that's the point I was trying to get across. It's like I went the full PVC with the elbows and everything, the 3/4 inch PVC, but I literally have a Home Depot 5 minutes away, so I could go in my basement, scribble a list, and I'm home in a half hour to go, right? So yeah,
Or you
I
can
did.
get it wrong and go back and get the right thing.
Right?
You know?
Yeah, like for you, it's an hour and a half round trip just driving to do that. Right?
Yeah.
So that's yeah, I would make do with what I have too. And we still do that here quite a bit with glass lids, stuff like that. But that's part of I know certain people in this hobby that I'm not going to name is, even though I know one of you is probably watching. If they're not messing with their shit, no, it's not me. Not well. It kind of is, but I just don't. I hide it well. But if they're not constantly messing with their shit, they get bored and sell everything.
Yeah.
So that's not me. I never sell everything. But if they're not constantly messing with it, they get bored and sell it. I know two people like this, and if you're watching, knock it off. You're pissing me off because it's always me you come back to get restocked. But so
that is common. You know?
it is, right? So yeah, I guess some people just need to always tinker. Maybe these people need to get a bigger room so they can tinker with more stuff.
Well, that's part of my problem was that, you know, you kind of get something working pretty good, and because I like to work with my hands and tinker with things, so you think, well, I'm going to do another one, or I'll do something different, or you think about, well, if I was going to do it different, how would I do it, you know? So you got to be kind of careful with some of that.
Yeah, you got to be, it's good to be a little handy. Hello, Aquatic Nests. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, you got to be a little bit handy at least. Oh, good. I've made it down near bottom here. There's also renter problems that some may not know about in Vancouver. In a lot of apartments, you cannot keep aquariums accessing 20 gallons. I've heard people speak of that.
Yeah, no water beds, no fish tanks.
Yeah. I wonder how. I have a little insight. I have a little insight on renters' rights and landlords' rights, and obviously we come into laws. If we have some Americans watching, our laws are clearly different than yours. So I don't know, because I know unless your dog actually attacks someone can't tell you, no, you can't have a dog in a place you're being rented to. Unless your dog's become a threat to somebody else who lives there as well. Like if it's a shared property where there's multiple apartments. Now they can deny you renting if they know you have a dog. They could just say, well, we rented it to somebody else. But if you already live there and you bring a dog in, they actually can't stop you unless the dog has been threatening towards somebody else who lives there. So I don't know how they would do that with a fish tank, especially here where I believe in Ontario, I don't know if it's law, but I believe it's at the very least highly suggested to get tenant insurance. And I wonder if that would cover you if you ever had a tank let go and ruin the floor and everything. I totally see the landlord side of it. Look what I did to my parents' house when I was a kid. I've had tanks leak. It's a hell of a mess. If I wasn't a finished carpenter, I probably would have lost my mind if I had to pay someone to come in and repair the damage it made. So, yeah, I guess you have to be careful of that if you're renting.
Yeah. I'm fortunate, like that's part of why I moved this into the basement was because I have an area that was basically unfinished. Like you can see the rafters of my ceiling there and so on. And so it was concrete floor and concrete walls and rafters, and the rest of it was finished. Like there's bedrooms that surround it, and there's a storage room and a laundry room and all that sort of stuff. But the centerpiece is meant to be a rec room down here, and we never finished that part of it. It was always, the plan was to make it a rec room someday. And my kids did hang around down here when they were younger, and they had some, you know, beanbag chairs and a TV, and their friends would hang out. And I kind of never really finished it because they could make a mess. It didn't hurt anything, right? And I always thought that I would finish it, and instead it turned into that we painted it and left the concrete and made a fish room out of it. So it's been kind of good that way. I was going to put a T-bar ceiling, and then once the airline went in and stuff, I said, you know, I don't even care if I do that.
Yeah, we're unfinished down here. What you see behind me, I do have a finished section here. This is where I put my small studio area. My oldest son has a bedroom over here. But yeah, this was supposed to be, where I'm sitting used to be a TV, and we have a couch over here and stuff. Nobody used it. Nobody used it. So I said, the hell with this. I'll put fish and studios, and I'll take it over. Yeah. You kids don't want this entire area to yourselves, to not be near us. And there was an Xbox down here, everything of it. But no, they didn't want to use it. So I said, fine, I'll use it. And It ended up a fish room.
Yeah. Well, see, I'm fortunate enough that like this is the home that we, you know, raised our kids in and stuff. And we had our family young. And my kids are all but grown and gone. Most of them are. There's only one that lives home here, my son that I mentioned earlier. And he's a young adult now. And he's military and so on. So he doesn't really have a home of his own or anything like that. And otherwise, we had lots of extra room here, lots of extra rooms, and this basement that was really doing nothing. So that's what I did, you know.
Oh, very good. I'm just going to throw, this is a tip here from Streetwise. Hello, Streetwise. Thank you for joining us. I love your tip here. This is something that, well, I don't do in the basement, but I did upstairs. One thing I do to protect my floor is keep any canister filter in a plastic tub. That is, that's a very, very nice extremely simple tip, but that tip will save you a lot of money, because all it takes is for one O-ring to let go in a canister filter, or even when you're just gonna maintain your canister filter, you can literally just pop the lid off your canister filter, bring the whole tub and everything out, and you're not going to make a mess in your floor. That's a fantastic tip. And
speaking of filters, I'm curious about that. I use Eheim Classic canisters now, not to promote or not promote any particular name brand, but they're old round style canisters. I'm very, very happy with them. They work well for me. I was a fan of Fluval canisters when they were round. Now, as soon as they went square, I stopped being a fan. I tried every one of them, but you know, it's called an O-ring for a reason. And when it's square, it's not an O-ring anymore, is it? So, what sort of canisters do you use, if any?
I have some Marineland 360s.
Okay.
Not completely happy with them. They do fail from time to time. I just happen to have them. The one filter I have that I'm completely sold on is my FX6.
Right. Once again, back to round, you know.
Not only round and clamp down, like that's a very good system.
They really leveled, raised the bar when they decided to design that again. But I think that comes from that they had a generation of really crappy canisters, you know, before that.
Yeah, like this thing pounds, and it's there's never air in your line. It actually does its own airline maintenance. It will shut itself off and turn itself back on intermittently. I didn't look to see how often it does it, but it does it once in a while. I've caught it doing it once in a while. It's pretty quiet. And I have it on my 180 gallon. Now, what I like about it too is when you're doing maintenance on it, no mess. When you take that lid off, like you take a Marineland 360 lid off, you pop it off and it goes, and then you get water on the floor. No matter what you do with that filter, you're getting water on the floor. So again, back to the tub, keep it in a tub. But this FX6, it's expensive. They're expensive, but you get what you pay for. Bottom line, I'm done with this argument with some people. They're like, oh, why would you go get an FX6 when you could get a Sun for $140? Well, because I don't want a piece of shit Sun that costs $140. I want a good filter. That's why.
Well, you know, I'd point something else out too when you're saying you get what you pay for. You know, once again, I talked earlier about, you know, it's almost a theme that we're on right now, about building my own tanks and my own tops, and you know, people living in apartments and what kind of tank can they have and whatever. Here's something you want to remember: the insurance guy adjuster's job, it's not to pay you when something happens. It's to find a reason not to pay you. You know, and all the reason he needs is that, oh, you bought a Chinese filter, and I'm not saying that because there's anything wrong with it. It's just, it's a fact. In other words, you bought something that's not CSA approved, Canadian Standards approved, you know, or USDA approved, like, you know, whatever the standards are, the safety standards that you have, a little tag on stuff. You know, you bought something that doesn't have that little tag, and then you plugged it in here, and it didn't work correctly, and it failed and caused a problem that caused water damage or an electrical issue or a fire or something. That's all the reason they need not to pay you right there. So did you really save some money when you bought an Econo Light or a foreign filter, or you did something that you kind of cut some corners? Because, you know, it looks just as good, right? It works just as good, right? Does it?
Well, I'll put it to everybody this way. I'm going to do something here. See if that's still working. Yep. Everybody hear me well still, I think. So you have this tank here, okay? If you added up the dollar value of every single fish that's in that tank, how much money is in that tank? If you went to buy all those fish at an aquarium store, I'm telling you, you're in the thousands, okay? Do you want to trust, damaging your floor aside, I'll say, for me, it's on a concrete floor and there's a drain nearby. I'm not worried. If my filter lets go, whatever. Other than it's going to drain a lot of my tank. And do I want to trust something that's not great, like a Sun? They work. Don't get me wrong, people. And if everybody's getting their undies in a bunch that I'm knocking Suns, I'm not.
They work.
Suns are what they are. And if that's all you can afford is a Sun, get a Sun. It's better than nothing. But what I am going to say is I'd rather not worry about my filter. And I can tell you, as long as I would own a Sun, I would be worrying about it. So yeah, I have a big tank set up.
Would you like to sleep at night, right?
Right, exactly. I don't want to worry about it. I'm beyond worrying about it. It's basically, I went and spent $450 on one filter so that I could have peace of mind. And also, I don't want to kill my fish. I know that filter, they say it's rated, I believe, for 400 gallons, actually. I never trust those ratings from any filter. So if that FX6 is, say, 400 gallons and a little shit Sun beside it is saying it's good for 120 gallons or whatever, 180 gallons, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. I'm not believing it, is what I'm saying. On that 180-gallon tank.
Again, that goes back to something we were talking about earlier, you know, information that's regurgitated. You know, where do those numbers come from? Like, really, how did they decide that this product does that many gallons or whatever? You know, based on what exactly?
I believe they base it on water flow, how many gallons per hour. I think that's almost the sole way they base it on, and it's a very inaccurate and poor way to do it. Oh, hey, redfish, bluefish, good to see you. But I'm saying, for instance, on this 180-gallon, I have one filter that's rated for 400 gallons. I have a Marineland 360 on it that I believe it's rated for 120 gallons, and I have an aquaponics system on the back, on top of that tank that pumps, I believe, I think it's 300 gallons an hour or something up through that, and then back into the tank with all that pothos roots in it. So I have 3 filters on this tank, when actually one filter is rated for double this tank. So I don't trust them, but I want to know I have enough filtration to keep my livestock alive. So I wouldn't put suns on it, or I'd put 5 of them on it.
I can't argue that with you, but I have a personal thought I'd like to share with you about filtration in general. I think that filters aren't even named correctly. I don't think that we should really even call them a filter. It's a pump, or it's a it's a device we use on the aquarium to move water. It does all kinds of different things, but does it filter? Now here's why. To me, a filter. What's a filter do? Like, a filter takes everything, puts it there, and cleans it, and puts out a better product. So, and I think that's what we think most of our filters are doing. We think that filter is sucking the water out. In this case, a canister. It sucks the water out. It cleans that water, puts it back into the tank. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think that partially is true, because it removes some particulate and it moves some things out of the water. And there's where we come up with a rating, right? Well, this canister will filter a tank with 100 gallons. Given canister will filter that 100-gallon aquarium. But once again, that doesn't really take into account what's in that aquarium. How many fish, what type of fish, what sort of food, plants that are in there, what your water quality is like. Like, there's so many other different factors. And we know that a lot of what our filtration actually isn't filtering anything at all. It's beneficial bacteria. It's water conversion, So did the filter do that conversion for you? Some of it, yes, because it moved the water through the filter, where that filter was able to, go through the nitrogen cycle, take it and take the ammonia and break it into a different thing, hand it off to the next thing. So we kind of understand how that works. But face it, that works in an aquarium that's got a sponge filter in it that doesn't have an external canister at all. So how did that work, right? So that's kind of what I'm getting at about that. I think that filtration and those numbers, they're a bit mythological. And once again, that's why what works for one person isn't the same for another person, And we have to be understanding about that and not be judgy. Once again, people get kind of high and mighty about that. Oh, well, I have this and you have that, or whatever. And I'm not disagreeing with you. Don't think I am if I sound like it. I'm on the same boat. I'm not a fan of the sun either, and some of those products. But part of the reason is for a different reason, and that's just that I don't think they're safe.
Yeah, and I posted up what HC Aqua said while you were talking about what a filter does. He wrote biohome. And I thought that was very fitting for what you were saying. If you notice now, and everybody, don't think I'm a filter snob at all. I have like every kind of filter in this fish room, and I mainly run sponge filters. That's pretty much what I run. Just my bigger tanks. Some of my big tank here, sponge filters just don't do it. They're just not enough. I really should have probably a sump under this tank, but I'm not there yet. I'm just going to stick with these. But if you notice when you buy a sponge filter, if you notice,
we never call a sump anything but a sump, but I think a sump is actually aptly named as a filter.
Yeah.
You understand where I'm getting? That's the one thing that we don't call it a filter for some reason, and it really is a filter.
Yeah, it goes through its different stages. It's almost like an RO filter for your aquarium, depending on the media choices that you put in. But even with canister filters, sponge filters, hang-on back filters, all the internal filters, they all have a rating, and it's essentially like Select Pet's saying right here. It's so dummies can explain it to dummies. Exactly. And really, it just talks about how much water it moves. So if you buy an extra large sponge filter and it says this is good for 60 gallons, well, all it means is it's going to move the water of 60 gallons, provided you give it an ample enough air to do so.
Right.
Same thing with your canister filters. Same thing with the sump. It depends on how many gallons per hour the pump you put into the sump pumps through your filter would be how much water it moves. That's how they do it.
Yep. Well, once again, that's what I was trying to point out, was that I think a lot of this stuff is information that was put out by somebody trying to sell you a product.
Yeah.
know, and that doesn't make it wrong, but you can't turn those same numbers and that information into blanketed information to use across the hobby or across the industry. It doesn't really work that way.
No, and I think the more of these we do, for sure, and the more people talks like this reach, the more people will understand that, yeah, it's marketing. It's called marketing. And really, you just kind of got to know what you're doing. And it's no different than if you buy, okay, let's use, we can use something else as an example. You work with power tools all the time. So do I. Power tool has a maximum rating on it. Every power tool does. What RPM it runs at, everything else. It doesn't mean it's going to do that job. So you could take a DeWalt. Oh, I gotta get a real big shit here. But you could take a DeWalt and a Makita, right?
Yep.
And they could both say that they both have 30. I'm pulling numbers out of my ass here, people, so don't quote me on this. That they can hammer out 3,200 pounds per square inch torque. Well, you put them both in at 32. One cocks out, one doesn't. I'm not going to say which one, so for all you power tool people, but they won't be the same. They won't be the same at all. It's all marketing. Everything is marketing. So people need to educate themselves on what they need, and this is how they'll educate themselves, by asking other hobbyists.
Well, in a lot of the talks that I used to give, I was always famous for saying two things in particular, but one of them was that, for starters, we're all monsters. We're all keeping, fish in glass boxes in our houses. So we're all monsters, number one. So stop being mad at each other and stop being judgy and start helping one another. And the other thing that I used to say about that was that, the best filter you can buy and the best filter you can have is the one you like. And the reason I say that is because if you like it, then it works for you and you'll maintain it and you'll take care of it and you'll do what you need to do to it. Then when I was pushed further, say, okay, yeah, but what's really the best one? Here's what I always used to tell people. I hang on back. And the reason being is because in my experience, I have found that that's the easiest one for most people to use. You can put anything in it. You can hot rod. You put an intake sponge on it, and then you take the basket in the back, throw away the cartridges or whatever it came with, and you put whatever you want in there, and it's going to work. Yep. It's going to help clean your tank, which is really what you're looking for. So when I'm absolutely pressed, that's what I tell people.
Sorry, I have to put this up. I'm a DeWalt guy. But anyways.
I have a DeWalt drill and a drill both. And I like them both. I won't tell you which one I like better. But
I own them both too, and I'll tell you which one out-torques the other. The DeWalt out-torques the Makita every time. It does. Same battery on it, everything. I have them both. I had the Makitas first, and then, long story short, once you start collecting battery-operated power tools, you got to sort your shit out and know which line you're going to run with. And I think for me, honestly, I just happened, DeWalt had some options for me that a couple other tool manufacturers didn't. So I went with DeWalt because I'm buying all DeWalt batteries. I'm not buying Makita batteries and DeWalt batteries. If you want to talk best contractor tools, as Jason from Redfish, Bluefish said, yeah, Hitachis are awesome. And Milwaukee's. I really like Milwaukee's too, but I like DeWalt's too. But it just happens to be for my contracting that's what I went with. But yeah,
but those are all professional products.
Yeah,
and that goes back to what I was saying before.
They're not Ryobis.
Yeah. Those are all highly rated, good quality products. Which one do you like better, the Ford, the Dodge, the Chef? See, now you'll get the top going in the chat. The Toyota guys in there now, right? But at the end of the day, those are recognizable products. They're not no-name or off-name or off-brand products that don't have a rating or that don't have a safety standard that they go through.
So we'll end this contractor talk with this. An FX6 is like a DeWalt, a Milwaukee, Hitachi, all them. A Sun's a freaking Ryobi. Okay. Bottom line. End of discussion. So, I think we're going to have to cut off here soon. We've overlapped into like a couple of different streams anyways, I believe.
We are too.
Yeah. It's been a fantastic chat because we've hardly had time to even hit the chat here. So, anyways, Brandon, I don't know, anything else you want to...
You know what? It's been a good stream. I appreciate it. I thank you very much for having me on. I don't really have anything to push, but if you're not on FishTubers notification on Facebook, then please go check that out. Feel free to share your own stuff there. Don't wait for me to share all your stuff. Go share your own on there.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for coming on. You've been a fantastic guest, and my streak still lives that I've never had a bad guest. So that's awesome. Hopefully this streak continues to go. Every guest I've had on has offered something different, and that's why I like having different guests on, because I get different offerings from each guest, and we learn something new from each guest. And people don't have to just look at my ugly mug; they can look at your mug, they can hear your voice, they can hear what you have to say. I get to share twice as much information than just myself when I do this, so that's why I like doing it. Thank you, everybody that participated in the chat. Thank you, everybody that watched, and we don't even know you're watching because you weren't in the chat. And yeah, if you guys can hit the like button, that would be fantastic. And if you're looking for a new channel to subscribe to that you're not already subscribed, there's a couple of fellas looking at you right now that could use some subscribers. So again, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate it. And carry on to Fish Room Fever's live chat. I believe he's next. Yeah. So thank you and good night, everybody.
Peace.
Till next time.